Hey YouTube, welcome back to Gundam TCG for another Gundam card game video. And for this one, we're gonna circle back around to the ban list topic because I made a video talking about what I would like to be on there, what I may expect to be on there, and there were a lot of feelings about this. So with this, I was trying to answer every single comment, and I was keeping up for a little bit, but then a lot of people actually had feelings and things to say about it. So I wanted to take this opportunity to do something I've never done on this channel before. I want to go through a comment section and I want to respond to each and every one of you guys. So instead of just having these comments, we can actually make a discussion about this. You guys can hear your questions or your comments being responded to and then just really move from there. So I hope you guys enjoy this sort of content, and if you like stuff like this, we'll do it again when the occasion arises. So let's hop over to the comment section. All right, let's see how much time this takes. So let's go. It's Barty. Got the It's Late Brother. You're putting in the work. It's my favorite Gundam card game channel. Great insight and info as usual. Kira's my nemesis. Thank you so much, brother. When it comes to Kira, I do feel like Kira is just kind of that dude. Unfortunately, for the Kira fans, he's one of the only linked pilots that allows you to generally go over another linked pilot without dying yourself because of the -2. He allows you to, just the pilot himself allows you to swing into 2/2s with no repercussions, which is crazy. And then on top of that, he's just getting so many links. Like, he's getting a suppression unit. Like, he's got multiple blockers. He's got a floodgate. He's getting a suppression unit. He's got like a freedom, which just really can do some weird things if you ever get that high up in the curve. I just think that Kira does too much work, so I think that he could be put down to 2. You got Banana Democracy Zero. Honestly, I don't see them banning or limiting Amuro or Akira, possibly, probably Adept or Corsica. I don't see them banning cards they have more plans for, especially in the beginning, is a mistake. Hell, making a ban list this early feels criminal, and you don't play Lurple. So I agree and disagree because in set 5, we saw New Gundam was in green and it looks like Freedom is in blue, which likely to me, especially with the New Gundam, right? We're probably getting second pilot cards. I can't see them just looking at us straight in the eye and being like, yeah, if you want to play New Gundam, you have to play blue-green because the only Amuro is going to be in blue. I don't see that happening. I think we're about to get new Amuro, new Char. I think we're about to get new Kira in blue. And with that, I do believe we're already getting new Soletta in green coming out next set. I do believe that we are at a point where you can put a pilot down to 2 if you think it's destructive to the game, because you're going to have more Kiras, and those Kiras are retroactive. You could pair this next Kira with any of these current Ale Strikes or Freedoms, so I do think that they could be on the table. As for Corsica, I think that Corsica probably needs to go, get its effect once for the Talgis token, get its effect again for the for the 2 Leos, but then after that you just got to be able to chill. Now, going past that, when it comes to Adept, I have strong feelings on Adept. I do not feel like Adept's a broken card. I feel like Adept was the straw that broke the camel's back. Adept is a very solid card, but not broken. It doesn't do anything that's too crazy, but it was the perfect piece that Blurple needed in its arsenal. It is a Mikazuki link. It has enough HP to take multiple self-ping effects. It pings your opponent and it pings yourself. It is an enabler. It is a soft removal via ping. It is a Mikazuki link and it has a great HP stat. That's all it needed. All 4 of those things together make it the most solid card it could have possibly been for the IBO archetype, but I do not believe that it is broken. Going over to Agent Active, or Bandai can make cards that are as good in other colors. Red has no draw power. I do agree. However, I do think there is a point here. I've been playing Bandai card games since 2018 with the release of Dragon Ball Super Masters, and I do believe that looking at their upload or their schedule, the prints happen months before the set is released, which means the design has to happen months before the print, which means that in most cases, if they see a problem they need to address, the earliest cards will reflect that problem is generally like 6 months from then, give or take. And so are you trying to say, I mean, you're not trying to say it, but what this would say is that we'll just make other cards better. Okay, well, that's cool. But that would mean that we'd probably not see him until set 6. And I think that that is wild. That is a wild wait for the format to change. So I do believe that the ban list, limited list, restricted list, they're very important in terms of getting the game under control before you can actually make cards to implement true change. Next, you've got TCG Metals. Will Gundam be Bandai's first game to introduce cards limited to 2? I don't know, bro, but your takes are better than most YouTube videos about this. Well, thank you, TCG Metals. And what you're looking at right now, I think this game should use semi-limits. I think you can't limit a card to 1 in this game because you never see it, or you run too much of a risk for it to be the only copy to be in your shields and never be seen. I do think cards to 2 will hurt consistency, but as long as you're just getting pilots that have double pilots, like another pilot with the exact same name, or you're hitting units, because generally every pilot will have multiple links, I do think that we are fine getting away with semi-limits. Now, Justin Jenkins, you're saying, my guy pumping out the content. You wouldn't be too upset if Wing Zero got hit to 2. That's your main deck. But we got Endless Waltz in July, so we know we're getting the custom suits. Another Wing Zero or another card might be a better boss card, but it's just, but it's Wing Zero. It's going to be fire. I would love to see a green Epion card, but we got Wing Zero and some other good boss monsters. Epion is your favorite suit from Wing. So I do think Wing Zero can go down to 2. For goodness sakes, we do have Overflowing Affection and the Path to Victory and Defeat, which is like I think the only top 5 searcher in the game. We have the ability to dig for Wing Zero, but I do think that between Wing Gundam, Ultron, Shenlong, we have a lot of ways to get at bodies at the same time, and then on top of that, we're going to be getting more for Endless Waltz. I do think that we are in a space where we can put Wing Zero down to 2, because that card really just... Some people are like, well, if I get up to 8 energy or 8 resources, I deserve to be able to clap aggro. But did you really earn getting up to 8 resources, or did you just play 19 blockers? It's a very stale gameplay loop to just play blocker after blocker after blocker after blocker. Oh, I'm at 8 resources, Wing Zero, clear your entire board, and I'm locking you out of the game from here on. That's not great gameplay. And I think that if you actively were, like the Wu Fei decks and Shenlong, at least those decks force you to try to be active, get at your opponent, and those are cool. But I really do feel like Wing Zero is not, you don't earn anything getting up to Wing Zero. You probably just turtle and then played Wing Zero, and that's a whole thing on its own. So that's that. And then you have High New Gundam 0079. I'm a little biased, but I don't think pilots should be touched. I do see your argument for Kira, especially when there's no sort of increase in value generation. I would like to see Corsica, Wing Zero, Grandpa, Ilfra, Striker Pack, Adept either go to 0 or 1 to sort of curb the deck building process while not completely leaving out the ability to utilize generic power of these cards. I agree with like half of this list. Corsica, I think, should go to 2, because I believe you should be able to play it once to get your Leo or your Tall Geese, and play it one more time for your Leo tokens. If you put Corsica down to 1, you can only use it one time, and that kind of invalidates the card. Like, I just don't like being able to make 2 tokens for 3 and draw a card 3 times in a game potentially. That's just not it. Now, Wing Zero, I already spoke about Wing Zero. Grandpa, I talked about in the video. I think that Grandpa can go to 2. Amuro has plenty of links and he's just getting more. Grandpa is just the egregious link because he's got the repair 2 and the field boosting. I do think Grandpa should be something that you play in a strategic moment where you need to clear something and keep a body, or you need to pump the entire board. But I do think that having Grandpa at 4, the LR from starter deck 1, is a little too expendable, and you can just throw him out Haymaker style just over and over and over again. Now, Ilfrith, I don't like the idea of Ilfrith being touched. 4 HP is a rough point. I don't think that blockers, low blockers, should be touched. I think that we should have better cards to get around them. But Amuro is low-key kind of that card. Amuro is curbing blockers as much as possible. We're getting more and more effects that can touch 4 HP, but in the future, I would just like to see more things that could deal 3 damage to something. Red card, deal 3 damage to something, but if it's a blocker, deal 4. That's actually something that would be really, really cool, because it would incentivize people to play that card if they know the format's blocker heavy, and it would decentivize people from just playing blockers and thinking that they're safe. There has to be more nuance to it, otherwise you get aggro slop, blocker slop, ping slop, whatever you don't like playing against, really. So that is that. When it comes to Striker Pack though, yeah, put that guy out. I hate that card. I think that card is just awful. I think a shield or a blocker coming from life, and if you don't block with it, you can just use it as a potential attacker next turn, is bad. I think that card is negative neuron activation. Like, it can stop people from winning games and cause people to win it. I just hate Striker Pack. I think that is a very toxic burst. Next card, Teagle, my prediction is 2 Corsica and 2 Adept. I don't think they'll touch pilots. Thanks for the video, no problem. Thank you for watching. And you, with your prediction of 2 Corsica and 2 Adept, I think, like I said, 2 Corsica is more than fine. I think that Adept is a very probable target for getting smacked, but I don't like the idea of Adept getting smacked. Mainly because it really is not a broken card. It's just really solid, and it checks off all the boxes that deck needed. And I think that's the end of my members, so I want to thank all of my members who got in this video early when it was just members only. Thank you guys for commenting. I appreciate it, and I will keep making more and more members content. We only have 1 more week in my part-time before I'm going to be off, and then anticipating the baby, and then it'll just be content in the baby. So look forward to more videos. But what we got here is Bilbo Batten. I don't really feel like any cards are overpowered. I just think the game doesn't have as many cards they need to flesh out certain archetypes. People aren't considering how young this game is at this point. Aggro is powerful, and it's not like it was the runaway deck last format. I think Aggro's gotten more tools than mid-range and control. Being able to drop show into 3 2/2s on turn 6, the powerful acceleration. This can't be answered easily in game. I think this is not an issue that requires more bans, it just requires more cards. I think this is premature at this point. Also, the point about archetypes is incredibly important. It's something I would like to see way less of in the game. Yeah, my point about archetypes, if I'm not mistaken, was that I need archetypes to have a better payoff. If you're going to jump through hoops of play, if you're going to play specific deck compositions, you gotta make sure that you aren't giving us a payout that's worse than the generic, oh, I just put my cure on something, I just put X Pilot or Ale Strike, I just paired something with Amuro, I just put something, like, you gotta give a better payoff than that if we're going to be jumping through specific card names and archetypes. Now, when you say that things aren't overpowered, I don't think things are really overpowered either. One of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is that Blurple is not head and shoulders above other decks. It's not. Every deck that gets into these top cuts, you can see their matchups against Blurple, and sometimes you've experienced them yourself playing Blurple or playing them into Blurple. They can be extremely one-sided. The issue is that this game is a very inconsistent game at its core right now. It will be until there's just more power creep. And while that happens, when both decks brick, do you know the quickest way, the deck that's going to be the quickest to unbrick? It's the deck that's drawing body after body after body, with the ability to potentially put damage on the body and turn it into a draw when it turns sideways, with the ability to then draw into Show of Resolve and replenish the hand. Blurple, even when it bricks, is just playing out bodies, and that is going to be enough. You have a deck like Red-White Brick, and they draw a singular blocker, 3 ping spells, and, you know, 2 cards you can't use for 5 turns, 6 turns. That's it. That's literally it. You're going to play that 1 blocker out, you're going to ping a couple times. If they keep playing bodies, you have to cross your fingers and hope that you somehow draw out of this mess. Same with any other deck. When you brick in other decks that actually have a curve that can get up to 6, that can get up to, I'm not saying it because I was close to saying it, 8, when you get to 6 to 8 curves and whatnot, you are going to run into a problem where you can draw out a sequence. You can draw your top end and your middle end. You can draw the beginning of your game and your top end and no mid end, and just kind of get destroyed, or middle part get destroyed from there. So Blurple with a curve that caps out about 6, it just does not have that problem. Even if you open up 1/1 drop, a Rizel, a Grandpa, and Gundam NT, most of that hand is still playable in the first couple turns of the game, and then you have a chance of drawing into other things. So it really is just kind of like that. Okay, Matt Getson. You're saying you feel like they shouldn't have any ban lists. There are always ways to build around the problem. We need creativity in deck building, but it makes sense to take a consistent aggro deck for the first championships. They're there to win. I agree with that last part. It does make sense to take a consistent aggro deck. There's less chances of drawing out a sequence. That's what, like I was just speaking about. There are a lot of problems with drawing out a sequence, and you simply don't get that to the same degree when your curve caps out about 6. Now, building around the problem, that's the part I don't agree with, because we do have decks that build around the problem. Any deck that tops right now in these big profile tournaments, red-blue, white-green, green-blue, they all have good matchups into Blurple. It's just that they also tend to have curves that can draw out a sequence. And so when, like I said, when both these decks brick, Blurple is the one coming out on top. Or if one of these decks bricks and it's not Blurple, it's over. If Blurple bricks and one of these decks is a good run, Blurple can still draw out of it because the entire time they are just playing low bodies. And that's just the thing here. Now you have LAS8. You said agreed, taking Amuro is like taking out Blue Eyes White Dragon. I can vibe that. And then you have Doritos. Guys, your locals is not reflective of the meta. Just because nobody's playing Blurple at your 6-player local event, how rude, doesn't mean that we aren't in a tier 0 meta. The real events are absolutely dominated by this deck, and no one likes it when one deck is 65% of the meta in any card game. As for what the actual changes are, I would hope that only restrictions that get lifted once other colors see some power creep, but people need to stop with the bans this early would be horrible. Have you ever played a card game? Bandai alone, One Piece and Fusion will have had bans within the first year. You got to do what you got to do to keep things competitive. That second part, I agree with 100%. I like bans, and I like the idea of a dev team always looking at their game and seeing if they need to unban something, because that's how you keep it healthy. At some point, the level of a card probably isn't as relevant as it used to be, and you can take it off of a restricted or ban list. However, when it comes to like the other part, right? I don't think we're in a tier 0 meta in terms of power. I think we're in a tier 0 meta in terms of playability. Blurple is just simply not head and shoulders above any other deck. They can get got by a lot of decks. It's just that, again, when your curve caps out at 6 and those 6 are like 2 cards, your 5s are 2 cards, you really don't have to worry about, like, if your deck caps out at NT, Gundam NT1 and Gundam Gushon, your cap, you stop going up higher than 5 on the curve. That's nothing. So you don't have a high chance of drawing out a sequence. You have 4 cards essentially. So it really is just one of those things where it's consistent and it's hard to have a full brick. Now, Zeosrath, there we go. Makes CB great again. And this is coming from a guy with a fully altered Celestial Being deck. I'm talking my Exias, my Dynamuses, my Fatal Strikes, like my Transams. But again, we need to get there first. Ryan West says the fact the announcement said they are considering a ban list is crazy. Can you imagine what's going to happen if they put up a blog post that says after careful consideration we determined it's Gucci? That's hilarious. And if it happened, it would be like people would riot. Streets would be out of pocket because they'd be so upset. Worst things first. Bandai kind of makes Amuro a necessity. Corsica and a non-wing / Oz deck always seemed wrong to you, but so you never listen to others telling you to play it. Your placement in LA in October shows your build wasn't as optimal as others, but at least you played your own build. I can vibe that. At least you stuck to your guns and really got it in there. But yeah, sometimes a card is just the best in slot for what it does. And I think if you're playing blue and you're aggressive, Corsica is just simply the best in slot base for you. Now you got Savage Atrocity. I agree with most of your takes. I would have to disagree with the Wing Zero take. In your opinion, Wing Zero is only relevant if you get to turn 8. If you end up surviving a turn 8 and clear board against Aggro, IMO, you earned that. Limiting this would kill the Wing deck IMO. I want to see what somebody else said to this. It'd kill the consistency specifically. Like, if that became a thing, I'll probably scrap the card and play more Breach like Wu Fei. Look, I think 2 is fine. You have Overflowing Affections if you're playing white-green. You have Path to Victory and Defeat, which is a top 5 searcher for it. I don't think you ever earned, unless you were not playing white, I don't think you ever earned a path to Wing Zero. You played a blocker, followed by another blocker, followed by like an L strike to bounce and leave a blocker behind. You might have striker packed. You may have a striker pack from shields. I don't think playing 19 blockers and then getting to Wing Zero turns is earning anything. That's just me though. KBs, yeah, you got Aggroclapinator. Yes, sir. Honestly, yes, sir, it is. Like, Wing Zero is indeed the Aggroclapinator. When Wing Zero comes to the field, that's boot to you know what I'm saying? That's boot to that is windshield to windshield wipers. Like, you just sloosh, gone, man. So it is what it is. Inhumanation, you say ban red. That's it. No. Then you got Ocean's Music. You say, I hope none of the purple cards get hit. You just invested in this deck and it's your first deck. You only got the cards on Monday, just gone. I mean, I don't think anything in purple is worth hitting. Adept may get put down, but I think that Adept, again, I don't think Adept is a broken card. I think it was just the perfect card for the set. You see, Amuro is not the problem. Limiting Corsica base to 2 copies would be good enough. I think a little more needs to happen other than limiting Corsica to 2 copies, but I do think Amuro is necessary. So yeah. Thank you, Crowsmack. You got David D. Gent, TCG. Love all these takes. Great video, my dude. It's been so much, I can't remember if I said this, but thank you to all my members who viewed this the first day it was out early and just commented accordingly. I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Dear CF Collective, the game is still young. Rush decks always dominate in early days because they are meant to be cost efficient while the card pool is small. Rush decks generally dominate because their low to the ground curve makes it so that it's very easy to get off the ground. There's nothing really conflicting. Ratios tend to get found out very quickly because you're not teching for options. You're not teching for all these situations. You're teching to be as fast as possible. So it generally just happens pretty quick. And I do believe that you are kind of looking at this point where aggro just has a place because, and especially in a curve-based system, there's a lesser chance of bricking unplayable, and that's a whole thing. Crowsmack back again. Great analysis. By the way, keep up the good Gundam TCG content. I intend to. Thank you for watching. KB's back again. I personally am concerned with how limits to 2 on all the impactful pieces would be with how sacky this game can be between all the all pilots or no pilot or link to link situation. I think Amuro was way too strong and left them essentially no design space for blue resting pilot effects without power creeping an already broken card. He's essentially Goku, but I think that he has to go to allow other blue pilot resting effects to see the light of day or play design wise. If we are worried about blocker deck being a problem, I think either doing something like Wing Zero to reduce the snowballing at the top end is fine, but I do really think you need to hit Ilfrith being the most overstated / officially stated blocker that contributes to the stability of the early mid game before your Cure Link skill in. I do think Ilfrith being a 4 HP on 2 is very, very strong, perhaps too strong, and if it was just a 1/4, it wouldn't kill the 2/2 swinging into it. Being a 2/4, you get to actually just straight up grief a 2/2 coming in your way and still have another block left over, so I agree about that. When it comes to Amuro being way too strong, I actually just think most of the blue effects before level 5 are way too weak. Most of them are strictly resting 3 and 4 HP, which doesn't even do anything after Ilfrith, Ailstrikes, and more start coming out. You were literally hitting Rick Diaz's and Zwarts, and aggro, but aggro already turned their card sideways. The only time it's good against aggro is when they're playing out bodies and you intend to swing into them. So I really do think that blue resting effects in particular need to be a bit stronger. They can even have more hoops. They can have more limitations. They can have like other things, but like if you have a Earth Federation card on the board and you play this card, rest this card. If you have a white base team card on the board, unit already on the board, and then you play this unit, you can rest something with 4 or less HP. That would be something that's cool. You have to maintain the board presence. You have to build your deck a certain way to give us a payoff. But right now, I don't think Amuro is too busted. I think that most blue cards around that level are just feeling super, super weak. Amuro does what he does for 1, and he is a link and whatnot. If we just had like a 1 cost that could do, if we had like a 3 cost body that could rest something with 4 or less HP. Good. I think they're afraid of resting, but I think that resting doesn't get rid of the problem. You still have to rest and you still have to attack into it, or you have to let it go back to active mode and deal with another turn. So I do think that like you can be a bit more powerful in the resting, but well done response. Kaflin says, very well done. Videos like this help push for healthy games versus mass knee-jerk reaction to ban a namesake card. Yeah, I agree. I do be kind of on that myself, you know what I'm saying? No, but no, for real though, I do like to have discussions like these instead of just like hitting like the immediate, oh, I don't like this card, so it should be gone. I definitely want to see something more than that, you know what I mean? So now moving over here, we have got Split Airplane 289. Why are you saying we can't Amuro Ray because of blockers, but we can also blocker? Because you have to admit, Amuro is in a league of his own. No other pilot reaches the same power level. You realize this, right? As well, how are you saying that Kira deserves to be hit, but Ray not? This is crazy. Those 2 takes are crazy. Okay, so here's the thing. If Kira leaves this game, the format does not change. Kira is extremely strong, but if Kira leaves this game, there is no deck that is going to magically crawl out and be like, yeah, I'm unstoppable, I am untouchable. If Amuro goes, there is no reason for decks to not play white. That's the fact of the matter, brother. If Amuro leaves, there is no reason a deck should not be playing white with a blocker suite, because at this point, cards just don't reach you fast enough. You can play 4 blockers before an opponent is able to play a decent enough card that can rest a blocker, and you still got more. So nah, I'm not exactly for that at all. I'm not. Kira, on the other hand, like I said, Kira being just as versatile in the sense that, like, you have to realize Amuro just be resting stuff. You still have to attack into it, and with Grandpa, LR Grandpa from the starter deck, that is an easy task. You've got NT1 also doing that same work. But when it comes to Kira, Kira is going to make anything chump a 2/2. Kira is going to turn a blocker into a revenge death bomber that's just going to just block and take something with it. Now, I think Kira, people may not want to see it because Kira is not being played as much as Amuro, but I think that Amuro is a necessity because of how many low-level blockers exist in this game. I think that Kira is actually way overtuned in what it does on an average game. Providing so many 2-for-1s when it comes to Sword Strike and Kira, when it comes to Ale Strike and Kira, yeah, no. So the last boss says, nah, if they ban good cards from blue, purple, gotta ban all good cards from other colors, and there'll be nothing dangerous about any color. If they ban these blue cards, gotta ban many blockers from white, minus AP cards. Too much. Game is fine how it is. Blue, purple doesn't win 100% of the time. If they ban anything currently, you'll sell everything. You'll be done with this game. This is a bunch of crybabies crying that they don't want to alter their deck. The last boss, go ahead, pack up your stuff. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I'm not telling anybody to quit, but there are definitely cards that could be curved. Corsica does not need to be doing what it's doing. Corsica is making bodies in an aggro deck while drawing and providing a base. It doesn't need to be doing. Grandpa could go down to 2. I'm not calling for bans, mind you. I'm not calling for bans. I think that certain cards could have less copies in the deck to hurt the consistency of it, or how many times you can utilize it per game. But just to say all this is kind of weird. Because, I mean, 1, I could read it without it being in all caps, but, like, 2, nobody wants to go to a tournament where you're seeing the same deck over and over and over again. Because if that was the case, why are we just not all playing the same built 50? Why do we have archetypes if people don't have the choice of playing between different archetypes? I'm not saying every archetype has to be playable, that's not realistic. But it definitely needs to be more than just Blurple and decks that can beat Blurple. Red Eyes be vanilla. Why not restrict Amuro, Ilfrith, and Rick D? Because that's a weird stopgap. 1, limiting Ilfrith and Rick D, while Ilfrith needs to be addressed by ways of how you can interact with it, I think limiting Ilfrith and Rick D make white just pretty much a terrible color. White is the vehicle to get to late game right now, and if white gets hurt that bad in the early game, there is no way to stabilizing it to late game. Also, I wouldn't restrict Amuro because blocker is one heck of a keyword, and without Amuro in the game, you are much more likely to just get buried by what amount of blockers people can have. Sun chips. Yeah, my weenie's getting up there for sure, higher for sure. Yeah, look, I don't know whatever this is. I actually have to unlove that. That's crazy. Callum Bane, Wing Zero was fine. More decks are playing 6-cost units, so they dodge 0, and more boss units now we see have suppression. Leave my 0 alone. See, I knew you were a coper, I knew you were a fan, but the last line just cleared it. The deck can literally thrive without Wing Zero. The ult isn't even that pretty. I'm sorry. Like, I get what they were going for with the teddy bear in the foreground. Look, Wing Zero, I think, is low-key a problematic card, mainly because of how people are getting to it. You were just turtling up and then trying to slingshot the field back, and that's not interactive gameplay. That's actually very passive, annoying gameplay. But you didn't talk about your weenie, so here's a love. Now, Zelik 1996, is it me or is the video quality super choppy this time around? Edit, never mind. It's just because he's got a face cam that's only good when it's minimized. Lel. Actually, I was trying to work with the exposure and the sharpness, and it didn't translate well in this video, so that kind of sucked. But I have changed those settings, and they don't suck anymore, so, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what you're trying to get at there, but hello, goodbye. Now, Fast Chevy is saying your local shop actually does a ban list that changes every week and a half. Right now, we ban out 2 cards and limit to 2 cards from each color for a total of 4 cards hit per color. It definitely helps with the deck diversity since both aggro and blocker decks get hit pretty hard. I can toss you a link to it whenever you want to look at it. This is not a bad idea, but there are some huge pitfalls. One, if anybody doesn't have access to your forum, your Discord, however this news gets out, if a new player just sees that you guys play Gundam and pulls up with their deck, they could be in for a really bad time. But if they're playing cards that are banned and they had no idea of it, that's not very inviting to new players. Now, if you just have your close-knit pod, that's cool, man. That's cool. I just think that this is very not new player friendly, and it's far too easy to go to a shop for the first time and not know that they have a thriving Discord or something like that. So yeah. For real, 51, I think checking security would change the meta so much, or limiting the 2/2s in deck. Absolutely not. We already have an issue with burst. Burst is still very pivotal. When you get a base out of your last or second to last life, it can stop a whole board push, and you had no control over that. You did not skillfully pilot your way out of potentially getting gamed. You just had a burst. We already have Striker Pack coming out of there. G-Fred isn't catching on yet, but it can come out of the shields as well. I just think that I don't want another layer of randomness. I don't want to attack into your shields and lose my best card because one of your bosses just happened to get put into your shields. That's just more variance, and I think it's just kind of gross. Me personally. I get Digimon does it, but that's just not for me. Ethan Bindler. You say you just like the banned Corsica base. It feels so generically good. You think the pilot should always stay at 4 copies, bans or limit units instead? I've said Kira is the best pilot since day 1. I mean, I do think that Kira is one of the best pilots in the game. I do believe that as of set 5, once a pilot has 2 copies of themselves, I think that you can afford to limit 1 to 2, because like if you think it's just broken to have Amuro links coming turn after turn after turn, what do you think is going to happen when we have a green Amuro in set 5 and blue Amuro in set 1 and the decks can somewhat play together? You're just going to have this ability to just play out Amuro links turn, 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 turn. So I think that there has to be something that they look at that with. Also, Corsica base, I don't want to ban Corsica base. I don't want to ban starter deck cards. That feels incredibly disgusting. If you put a starter deck card to 2, your player can buy a starter deck and still be able to play the card exactly how it comes in the deck, and I think that's fine. Also, Corsica at 2 allows you to use each side of the effect once and not just double down and over again. Moving on to Abraham Mungia? Sorry if I butchered that. You like the idea of limited 2, but so far, worldwide TCGs, worldwide TCGs of Bandai go for 1 or 0. If they break the mold, that'd be a huge bonus. You start on Digimon TCG BT1, but stopped at 19. You believe choice restriction between perhaps Amuro and Mika might be healthy. Sure, limits deck building, but at the same time, does not outright destroy their own package. We saw it on Digimon with the Loop Tamer. They got banned, and later another Tamer pilot essentially and a combo have early combo have early game blockers almost impossible to remove. Too early at this point to you feels like a pair restriction which can later be lifted. Why we don't leave unchecked blocker pass. Let's see, 1 card to use problematic is Corsica. This card is by far as troublesome. Draw, place a body. Yeah, we talked about that. So here we go. I don't like choice restriction, and I think that it's cool, but choice restriction is a little convoluted, and I think that you always have to think about the new players that are just buying cards and getting into the game. You don't want to make the game more and more complicated before they even sit down at the table. And this is something that could easily get people kind of caught when they put stuff together and they sit down and you're like, oh, your deck's not legal. I also think that choice restriction is kind of funny because Amuro is just a decent card. He's just a strong card, and he goes into any deck he feels like. So you can be like, okay, Amuro and Mika can't be put in the same deck, but what are we going to get in set 4? How do we know that there's just not going to be another color that we put with blue and Amuro and somebody else needs a choice restriction now? Amuro is just generically good. Mikazuki might find its way into another deck that has ping and be even better than he is here. Are we just going to choice restrict that? I think that it's a patch. I think that it's a half measure, But hey, maybe it works. I haven't played a game with a choice restriction, so maybe it works out better than I'm initially thinking. Mr. Pilchard, you said Amuro is not the root of the problem, in quotes. Meanwhile, the regional and final winners: Orlando winner, Amuro White; Oceania winner, Amuro Char; Mexico winner, Amuro Char; Europe, Zero White. Finals winners: USA, Amuro Barbatos; Asia, Zero White, Amuro Freedom; Spain, Cubile Purple / Amuro Hathaway; Mexico, Amuro Char. The actual champion stated, if you don't play this Amuro on Gundam, you won't win. And then you say Amuro may not be the root of the problem, but it's the reason why he is in every single blue deck iteration with the Cyber New type, which is basically red plus Banshee. And blockers may be annoying, but not hard to play around. Blockers are not hard to play around. It's simply slogging through them. You may never get past the blockers. Furthermore, I think something that you kind of have to get here is Amuro is strong. But if you could not attack into a body and then kill it and then get repair 2, would it feel the same? If you're on turn 4, if you're playing Amuro into a gun cannon or Amuro into a vanilla, is it doing the same thing as LR Grandpa? Because I feel like if you just limit LR Grandpa and you can't just play it back to back on turn 4 and 5 or 4 and then later on 6, it's not the same card. Yes, I see all these, but look, you go into here, look at these, Oceania and Mexico winners, Amuro Char. Okay, cool. You put LR started at Gundam down to 2. Is Amuro even the same card in the deck? Yes, you can get rid of blockers, but you just take away half the links that successfully fit into the deck, and the other links may be a little too thick. You go over to Amuro Barbatos. Okay, if Amuro cannot go under LR Grandpa from the starter deck, then Amuro can only really go under NT1, and you have to find other links for it. It's not the same card. I think that Amuro is a necessary card. I think that LR Grandpa is the stronger card, and in conjunction, well, not the stronger card, but in conjunction with Amuro, does way too much. Ferdinand is saying, dropping facts, that's my goat. I appreciate being your goat, man. I appreciate it big. You got Gekudo. Hard disagree on Kira. I feel like you're overvaluing him a lot. Kira is good, but he's only really good because of his links. I'm a day 0 blue-white man. You never draw your Kira and get happy about reducing attack. I'm excited I can do Ale Strike and Freedom stuff on Sword Strike, but the -2 is still nice. I've definitely won a few games off of math being in your favor, but implying this should be hit over Amuro is kind of wild. No, dude, I said it the same way I'm going to say it again. If Kira goes out of the game right now, there's no deck that just comes out and just like gets really, really, really out of pocket, right? Amuro leaves the game right now, and automatically blockers just become walls of blockers, just become a much better thing. But when it comes to Kira, Kira does too much. Kira does not have to be linked. Kira just has to be paired with anything, and he allows you to chump things you wouldn't normally chump. Normally, a link unit trades for a link unit. Kira disrupts that heavy by getting rid of a linked unit and keeping your own. And then they still have to get rid of your stuff. He's getting more and more cards. There's not a single thing Kira can't do. Most pilots have 1 to 2 good links. Kira is currently sitting here with Ale Strike, a bunch of blockers, a Floodgate, and then you even are getting a just double strike, a suppression unit. Like, it's too much. I personally don't agree with that. Ban Wing Gundam Zero? No. That's as far as that. Sorry, Gnarlhosen. Tsunami Shijo, the only card you think is busted is Wing Zero, not because it does 3 damage, but the level it hits. Everything else is a threat assessment. I don't really agree with that. I think there are some combinations. I think Aggro, blue-purple Aggro has hit a critical mass of good cards, and that's kind of rough. Wing Zero is busted, but you still have to get there. I don't think people are getting there in interactive ways, and that's kind of my problem, but yeah, agree to disagree. Ultra Ginge? Is that the name? Honestly, the game is quite balanced, and having bans this early is crazy to you. You have blue purple as an aggro tempo deck, red white is a ping deck that beats that quite handedly, and then greedier things like heavy top end, wing, or blue white freedom. We have our triangle and fun decks in between that fight against one of those archetypes too. Generic interaction is super good. I agree they have they have come out strong, but it's just the world of championships right here where the players have brought blue purple, try to high roll and win without doing the simple math of red white. We would consistently beat it in best of 3. I said this earlier, I don't know about consistently. Red-White has a great matchup into Blurple as long as it does not brick. If you brick though, you have a bunch of unplayable cards and you have finite ping spells, and blue purple can just keep playing bodies, and some of their bodies will draw. Some of their cards will draw. Corsica will make a body and draw. Barbatos will get damage and swing and draw. And I do think that it's very rough to say that we have a triangle meta, because all it takes is a little inconsistency in a very inconsistent game, and Blurple will just actually play out more bodies than another deck can actually keep up with. So I personally do not agree the same way. Going up here, you have John Morton saying they already showed off Strike Freedom in blue, so you're pretty much already correct about the next hero being blue as well. All right, bet. Bans, lol, I guess. Wolf Crispy, sorry, Elekabron, you said, Elkabron. You said, bans. Wolf Crispy, good analysis. The kind of content can only help the game. Thank you. I like having discussions. I don't like sitting here and just being like, yo, this sucks. Gundam Seed 54, I agree with you on a lot of this. I think Amuro gets a lot of hate because he often rests a pivotal blocker at the right time. The STO1 Grandpa, however, has Repair 2, boost the damage of everything on the field just for having a pilot under it. Any pilot. That's insane value for a level 4 3 cost unit. Yes. Ding, ding, ding. I agree with you 100%. Now you've got Kira, I agree with. Most people I see don't put Kira on any of the suits. They tend to throw them on things like the Wing Gundam, which is insane value. Yes, Breach, lowering by 2 AP, and then punching over stuff. Yeah, crazy. Which brings you to your next point. You think STO2 Wing Gundam should be limited as well. A unit that can attack standing units versus lower level and has Breach 5 is crazy, especially because it has that natively. It does more it has more breach than it has attack. Think about that. And yeah, Corsica spam can be a problem, but I also have seen tokens die quickly too. I could see a limiting of them coming. Lastly, I disagree on Wing Zero, mostly because of how much it costs. At level 8, it's the only thing you can play. At worst, a level 9, and it's a pilot, is it in a pilot. It can't hit anything level 6 or above, so other decks top end won't be hit. Yes, the link with Hero makes it a nightmare to deal with, but it's doable. On that last point, Wing Zero isn't a problem for the decks that are playing mid-range or up. Wing Zero is a problem for the fact that you can play a blocker deck trying to get your opponent to not. It's the fact for me that you should always have Control versus Aggro being the arch nemesis matchup. But Control versus Aggro right now is playing a bunch of blockers and blockers and blockers and blockers, and then having a card that actively blows their game out. You spend 80% of your game preventing them from trying to play, and then you just play a card that just like tells them to go just go do something else because you're not playing this game anymore. And I think that is really not interactive. I'm a little weird on Wing Gundam being limited, but I can see where that is. It is a level 6. But it's kind of weird. It's hard to fit that deck, that card in the deck that's not Wing. That's the only thing. You're either playing Wing or it can be a little stuffy because Hito Yui is not a great pilot. He's good in Wing. He's not a great pilot to splash into any other deck. So I'm kind of weird about it, but I can see it. I could see it. So next we have very clever players really just want to go back to blocker meta. It will be one of the reasons why this game will die. This game's not going to die. Gundam fans haven't had a way to collect outside of Gunpla models and metal builds. So having this game be the way it is going to be a very, very, very good like kind of funnel for the creativity and collectedness of Gundam fans. It's not going to die. And I don't think every player wants to go back to blocker meta. I just think there are people that did like blocker meta, especially because they just liked Seed or they liked Wing. Hey y'all, as per usual, just checking in to make sure you guys are enjoying the content. Wanted to make sure I reached out to each and every one of you guys that commented and made this video blow up like it did. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you for the members that were commenting. I want to let everybody know that if you haven't already, you can always like this video, hype it if you're on the mobile platform, subscribe for more Gundam card game content, as well as other Gundam content. We got like the anniversary of SD Gundam G Generation coming up, as well as a symbol coming up later this year. But for the people who want to go the extra mile, you can always join the membership. You'll get early videos. I'm going to start making more exclusive videos once I go on paternity leave. And then on top of that, we have giveaways. We are shipping out the previous giveaway, but we currently have this one going on. We're about to probably end it in the next couple of weeks. I think enough people have seen it, have commented on it, but then we're going to be trying to round up some additional STO9s. I definitely have my 2 covered, and I'm going to be trying to go to these events to get more, and we'll be making a new giveaway for that. So yeah, that's always part of the membership. Thank you guys for being here, and yeah, let's get back to those comments. All right, getting back into these, we've got, before we limit pilots, you would like to see how the game feels with having 8 copies, and we can just have a deck based around your favorite pilots. Agree with the starter deck Gundam limit. I could sort of see that. I think that 8 pilots is going to be a little, I don't want to say egregious, but like I'm just trying to imagine, like, how would you feel if because of 8 pilots, you just like, your opponent just got to turn 4 and they were like an Amuro link, and they got to turn 5 and they're like another Amuro link, and they got to turn 6 and they were like a new Gundam link, and they got to turn 7, they said a new Gundam link, and they got to turn 8 and they said Amuro link, swing, bounce that crap back, Amuro link. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think 8 pilots of the same name in one deck just allows you some really janky stuff, but we will see. So thank you, Superfly Guy. Dark EX98 says, here's some of your here's some of my takes. Hitting wing 0 to 2 is fine. I'm a wing player and I did not find any trouble building your deck or building your wing deck around 2-0 since we have Ultron to white blockers and small units. Plus, Endless Waltz is coming in GDO5. Hitting STO1 Gundam instead of Amuro is very effective since it can buff up the entire board. Even 6 HP shields sometimes get 1 tapped. Amuro did not seem like a threat so far. Maybe we can limit the O to 2 as well, since it can pretty much rest anything as long as his board has something with repair. Even wing 0 could die. I don't know. I feel you do have to like set up the O. Kira is a little bit unnecessary. Yes, you can 2 AP, 2 units, and Sword Strike is broken in early game, being able to bounce almost anything, but it's not Kira that's the problem, it's his unit. I mean, I would say so. Ale is overtuned. Sword Strike does not do the same thing without Kira. Even if you put Mula Flog under it, it doesn't do the same thing without Kira. So I would say that Ale Strike does have that. Freedom, nah, you don't even really play Freedom. But soon we're going to get a suppression unit. That's one of the main things I was also getting at. Being able to play out that blocker and then swing a suppression seems like kind of rough. Corsica is just broken. Limiting to 2 would stabilize the current issues. I've seen people floodgate other people's boards just for Leo. Yes. These are my takes on your analysis. Keep making good videos, champ. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your detailed thought process. You got it's left. I agree with a lot of your takes. I don't know about wing 0 to 2, maybe 3, but then again, if there's more support, then I don't see a problem at 2. Agreed. I think Amuro 4 is that good. Like you said, it's not much options to rest. Kira is just unbelievably good, and you're currently running a green-purple Kyrios Dynamos. Kyrios Dynamos mid-range aggro to play at locals today. You're so excited. Hey, good luck on your deck. I know it was 5 days ago, but I hope it's testing out well for you. Then you have the argument that Amuro is the counter to blockers when any blocker that can run blue is also running 3 to 4 Amuro is weird. No, Amuro is not anti-blocker. Amuro is anti-everything. Amuro helps with blue W blocker decks as much as it hurts them. Amuro does hurt the traditional green-white wing 0 setup. But Amuro is not an anti-blocker card. We need anti-blocker cards, like Ultron, for example. But every color could get keywords that are distinct flavors of blocker hate. We need to get rid of generic win cards like Amuro, who counters any card that is a unit. Okay, cool. I'm glad you stated it this way, because I can just kind of be point blank period back to you. Generic win cards are not Amuro. You can't play an Amuro and just win the game. Amuro needs units behind it. The most egregious unit of them being STO1 Grandpa. That card is actively dumb. You swing over something and you don't take damage if it has 2 AP or less by the end of the turn. There's a small window to ping it to death, but you have to be playing red to really reach that window, so it's not versus everything. On top of that, boosting itself to 6 allows you to blow up 6 HP bases with 1 shot while resting a blocker that was in the way. On top of that, you were also able to boost up your entire board, causing trades and chumps that wouldn't normally happen. I don't think that you can just say Amuro is a generic win card because it's Amuro on the back of certain cards. But like I said, that particular Grandpa Gundam is one of them. Second, he is anti-blocker because right now, all the cards that can start touching blockers above 4 HP, like 4 and up HP, they normally are not nearly as cost efficient as the blockers themselves. If you play out a Rick Diaz and an Ilfrith in the same turn, your opponent generally is not going to do anything on 4 energy that is going to take care of both of those blockers. However, if you do have Amuro and Gundam or Amuro and Gun Tank, you can generally do something, you know what I mean? Like, or Gun Cannon. You can generally rest things and then move forward with them. Generally, to hit a 4 HP, you have to be going crazy up on the scale, to the point where they could have played 4 blockers out by the time you could play something that could interact with one of them without them touching things. So it's kind of like a weird point to me, because Amuro is 100% anti-blocker. And you're saying it's anti-everything. Amuro does not kill a unit. You have to have him under something to kill a unit. And that is the root cause I'm trying to get out. If you take away all 4 copies of LR Gramps, you don't have a lot of cards that can just swing into things and still survive and then repair afterwards. You really just start having to be very careful about what you do with your unit after you've paired it with Amuro. So that's just me. That's just me. And you're saying Ultron is a good anti-blocker card. Ultron costs 8, bro. Well, Ultron is like a level 8. You can't just say that anti-blocker. You know how many blockers your opponent can play before you can land 1 Ultron? I just can't exactly get behind that. Now, Noivern 1380, ban/limit on Corsica base, has a preemptive hit on blockers, and a preemptive hit on blockers and a limit for striker pack is what I'm hoping for. I don't think blockers need a preemptive hit. I think Amuro and High Maneuver are doing a good job as it is. Blockers are slowly phasing out. Like, you don't have as many blocker decks as there used to be. The O is doing it. Wing Zero is still doing it. Red White can still do it, but you're not seeing as many as there used to be. Striker Pack can just go. I think that card is terrible and is negative amounts of skill expression. And then I think Corsica base to 2 would be amazing. Sounds like a fair restrict list. Bandai, try to be careful not to kill the game and bring in angry fans. Yep, I agree with you 100%. Not just because of my list, but I do think Bandai is walking a light path. Then you've got Timothy Englehart. I'm newer to this game, and but I've played TCGs for 20 years. I can only see the only card I can legit see an argument for is Corsica. Everything else just seems like people not understanding what would happen to a meta with only 3 to 4 sets if they completely remove an archetype. Also, it's completely normal for Aggro to dominate a meta a month after a new set. It's safe, consistent, and mostly autopilot. Sir, I don't get where I'm killing any archetype. Everything I mentioned was a limit to 2. I did not say a singular card actually in this video should be banned. I said Corsica limited to 2. I said LR started at Grandpa limited to 2. I said Kira limited to 2. Yeah, I did not actually say that any of these cards should be banned. But that's just me though. But thanks. D. Charles, I personally wouldn't touch Amuro. He's a check to Kira decks. You also can't replant STL1 if you ban it. Correct. I do think if you restrict Adept to 3 to hit consistency at first, I'm in the camp of every starter deck card. If they are going to be restricted, put them in starter deck. Put them at their starter limits. I agree with that sentence wholeheartedly. Adept, like I said, I think that I'm neither here nor there on it, because I do feel like if you happen to hit Adept, like Adept is not, I will sing it from the rooftops, Adept is not a broken card. Adept is a very solid card that hits all the checkpoints that this deck needed. Now KB24 says ban Corsica, limit Adept, limit all 2/2/2/1 drops. The goal is slid on aggro no matter what. Limit RX78. Absolutely not. If this exact list was followed, you'd essentially just hurt one deck, destroy the ability to play aggressive decks, and this whole deck would become blocker the game. You'll probably have some, like Clan has so much unique stuff. You got High Maneuver, you've got First Strike, you've got cheating out cards, you got some burn, so maybe that would thrive. But you just really make this a white X format with this particular idea. Arturo Lopez says Banlist is for crybabies, just get good. You first, bro. And then you have at Shrudo liking the channel, keep it up. If Amuro is a single card holding aggro together, maybe aggro wasn't meant to be. You said it. Blue is too generic. It can do anything every color does except maybe suppression, AP reduction. Blue and purple have low cost ping units that red doesn't have. A lower level red ping red has commands that don't double as a unit. Yes, commands are strong, but they only do one thing. When more than a 1/3 of your units and pilots can get free kills just by putting them on the field, for 2 or less, it will be insanely good. I disagree on the most, or with most, about without aggro, it's just blocker slop. Blockers are a response to aggro. Without aggro, there are plenty of mid-range units that could excel. With that being said, pilots should be left alone. Corsica and Striker Pack need to go. Have you noticed every blocker token in the game has come in as active, while majority of the other ones come in rested? Number 1 most used card in blue decks, Gun Tank, level 2, 1 cost that pings a unit, just as bad as Corsica. This is long, sorry. You don't have to apologize for it. I agree with some things, I disagree with certain things. You said blocker is a response to aggro? No. In the beta format, one of the best decks, if not the first established deck where people were like, yeah, no, this is it, was blue-white blockers. Heavy blocker deck. And it only got better once people started incorporating cards that were coming out in spoilers, like Ilfrith. So, yeah, no. Aggro was not a response to blockers, or blockers were not a response to aggro. In fact, 1 Year War was more of a response to blockers. People were playing blue-white. That was the first conceived good, solid meta deck in the beta format moving into set 1. Having the ability to use Char for high maneuver was literally what set this apart. It's what had people going, oh yeah, no, I can get around blockers. So aggro is actually a response to blocker decks. But that being said, Amuro isn't holding aggro together. Amuro is the only thing that allows aggro to get past walls of blockers. There's a difference. Aggro could exist without Amuro, but if aggro goes up against a deck with 20 blockers, it's not really doing much without a way to swing over them with high maneuver or rest blockers. So that's just kind of that. In-Depth says it's true that Amuro keeps blockers in check, but on the other hand, he blocks other resting cards from getting played once since he's the best in slot. Restricting Amuro to 2 is fair because there are other ways to rest units. It will give the other cards an opportunity to shine. They are reviewing card balance for frequency and use in the recent worlds and regionals. Kira was not used that much. It's not yet his time. Maybe in future balance updates. There were wing decks. And I know those wing decks probably for a fact had Kira in them. But you're right on that last part. Some of that, like Kira, was a hopeful thing. But when it comes to the Amuro, resting Amuro to 2 or putting Amuro to 2, I don't think is it. He has a lot of links, and you essentially dead those cards by putting him down there, because Amuro actually does need to link with almost all of his links to make them good. He has a lot of win pair effects that only would work with certain things. NT not so much, Gundam not so much. I guess his LRs no, but there's a lot of things that Amuro does do. When it comes to, like, you're talking about letting other cards shine, what cards shine in the same space? Literally, what card that's level 4 or lower rests something that has 5 or lower AP? You're going to be hard pressed to find that, because no other card does. And if you remove Amuro, that just means that until you were at level 5 or higher, you were not resting things like Ilfrith. That is crazy to know that that is a drop-off. If Amuro leaves the game right now, you are not resting cards like Ilfrith until you are above level 5. And I think that's not really acceptable. Let's see. Personally, you said Draken killing. Personally, I think Mika should be win linked. Amuro should have been specified a white base unit. And then Corsica-based tokens should have come out rested or required Oz to send tokens. That would at least make it where if you run Oz or Amuro but not both, yes, I know that you could just swap the GMs for Pisces or something like that, but it would have made blue-purple more difficult to make, especially when there are so many when paired or / during paired effects going off without anything else restricting them. I do think Gun Tank needed another white base unit in play restriction, but that wouldn't make somebody stop playing them, 3 of them, in one turn later on. Yeah, so, yeah, that's a whole thing. I think that Mikazuki, I don't agree with the win linked, because one of the fantasies about this deck is having pilots be able to get into other units for unintended, combinations. We do have some win links, but if you notice, a lot of these really strong pilots will either have win link to go absolutely crazy or have a generic effect that does some pretty good stuff. I don't necessarily want that. Now, Amuro specified white base unit. I could see that, but Amuro does pilot more than just white base units, so that would hamper him from ever piloting something like New Gundam or Rig Diaz and Zeta. So I'm not quite sure about that one either. Now, I think Corsica-based tokens should have come and rested. No way, shape, or form should they have not. If Corsica-based tokens came and rested, it wouldn't be half the card it was today. So I agree with that one. But thank you for your comment. SB0083, you would actually put Gundam Elfrith and Rick Diaz on there too, possibly Striker Pack. I think Tekken is a standalone deck. Your Lupus deck runs Overflowing Affection for trashing. That's your only white card there, sir. You gotta look at my deck profile for white purple Tekken. I definitely think it could be a deck. However, it is fairly weak on its own. Like, you're not going to be like, you could do things, but you're not going to be seeing like crazy consistent results without Adept. I think Adept it really was everything that archetype needed put into one card, and it's really, really good. But you're saying right here Gundam Elfrith and Rick Diaz, I don't think you can do that without making aggro too strong. If Gundam Elfrith and Rick Diaz leave, then low to the ground decks just become infinitely better because their first couple turns they have no opposition outside of ping. Jonah is 820. I agree with you on a lot of this, but instead of Kira, you would make it L Strike. I can get behind that. I do think that Kira is getting more dangerous. My part of my Kira hit was a preemptive hit because I am definitely not trying to run. Like, I think that suppression card is just dangerous. That's just me. Dante's Wrath, you said Blurple is not annoying as 20 blocker wing 0 stall. I can reel that. It's at least to a degree Blurple is interactive, but they're both problematic. So Madden Mob, I think a limitation should be put in place on the number of level 2 1 costs and clones you're able to run. These cards create a fast tempo for the game, ultimately cause the late game cards to be mostly overlooked. Since set 3 came out, the topping decks have been consistently running 8 to 12 of them. They also make Showa Resolve more powerful on turn 5. I don't think any unit should cost 1. It has some almost has major disadvantage like the Test and Act. I think these generic early rush vanilla cards are deleterious to the overall health of the game. Look, I think that aggro definitely needs to exist, and I think there are a lot of things stopping. I don't want to see 1 cost 2/2s leave the game. I want to see 1 cost 2/2s have more opposition. And it's really not the 1 cost 2/2s that normally get it through, because like a lot of these decks can take them. Blue has a gajillion resting effects for them. Green is going to be able to attack into them active. Red is having a field day with 2/2s. Even white is bouncing those guys. Purple is pinging them out of the game. It's just that, like, being able to play a bunch of 2/2s and then having a guy that breaks base and having all the 2/2s go in sucks. It's weird, but I don't know if limiting them is the correct move, because like it's so strange. Even what you just said there. If you're not playing blue, you don't have that Show of Resolve play into multiple things. There's so many revolving factors, but I think just limiting how you can build, like limiting the amount of 2/2s, that's a weird arbitrary rule, and I don't know how they would enforce that. That one's just hard for them to say. Like, they just come out and like, yeah, rule the Gundam card game. You can't have more than 8 1-drop 2/2s. It has been said. That's just a little, I don't know how they would work that. Roberto, you were saying you definitely disagree with some things. First, Corsica and Amuro need to go to 2 max. My reasoning is because Corsica keeps too much momentum. I literally just said that. I said that. With color was blue, with either Tall Geese or Leos, draws 1 from your shield. Yeah, we mentioned that. Amuro is very simple. When he's paired, his HP threshold for the rest is the highest in the game. And at level 4, that's just out of his ideal link. Yeah, when he's in RX-78, it's a singular best play in the entire game on turn 4. You could also limit RX-78 to 2. That's what I said. But you won't help the issue that Amuro presents. You definitely will. Amuro rests things. Amuro does not destroy things. Amuro does not run over things. If you limit the body that can literally boost your entire board while attacking over something and getting a repair back, Amuro is not the same card he is. Amuro into Grandpa is the best play on turn 4. Amuro into Vanilla is not. Amuro into GDO1 starter or GDO1 LR is not. Amuro into, I don't know, Gun Can is not. It's Amuro into Grandpa LR. So that's just the whole thing. He enables too many decks. His resting allows Aggro to ignore blockers and go for shield. This is so powerful because his game is a race between the two, and he ignores essentially all interaction between units. He also, he can also enable interactions with the rest of them shouldn't happen, which becomes control. Blue-white, blue-purple. He definitely think the game is too young at the moment, and the lack of cards hurting the situation, but we're slowly seeing the power creep in the form of Trans Am, Lupus, Razor Burrow, built-in and unforeseen. there are definitely fear of blockers getting passively buffed with Amuro getting hit, but there are answers for all of them. It just sounds like people are more afraid of losing the easy answer than to experiment. For example, if Amuro is never seen, Ilfrith dodges basically every resting mechanic except Sarah and the Jupiter's base. His absence does not mean the end of the world, and every color has an answer in some way. There's others you'd like to see for sure, such as Wing 088 at 2 max, maybe something to either Adept or draw 1 when damaged Barbatos, so the pilot is carrying the purple color single-handedly. Removing 2 copies of Amuro is not only healthy for the current power balance, but also creativity. You just said that if Amuro is gone, we can now use Sarah and the Jupiter's base. Jupiter's base requires you to run a full Jupiter's deck. So you're saying to answer a singular Ilfrith, to answer a singular card that every white deck can play 4 of, you need to specifically play Jupiter's and build your deck heavy Jupiter's. It's not funny what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, that's so narrow. That's so narrow. Ilfrith is that 4 HP. Like, one of the things about Amuro is that he enables you to rest at a level 4 space, and that is going to be a whole thing. But I definitely do feel like you can't just pretend that white blockers do not just get out of pocket if Amuro doesn't exist. But I do think that putting Gramps at 2 stops why Amuro feels as oppressive. Amuro can still be put on anything and rest anything. But if you have to crash into what's rested and you lose your body, he doesn't feel as broken. He feels broken, in my opinion, because you are resting something, swinging over it, still keeping your body. And that's a huge thing. But that's a pretty good in-depth thing. I agree. There's a lot of points in here that I think are strong. Sithborg, you're saying you don't see Bandai hitting pilots. I think that some of the key units in Blurple will get hit. Grandpa in second feels right. I also see Corsica being outright banned. From what I observed of Bandai, I don't see them hitting anything that would help, that would rise up if Blurple takes a hit. Yeah, I mean, realistically, they're not often good at banning the secondary and tertiary threats, but I've always hoped for it, and they do pay attention to these videos. They do see videos catching steam, and so I would like to see them hit one of these. Now, when it comes to Bandai hitting pilots, I can see them doing that. We're about to have 8 of some of these pilots soon, I'm pretty sure. And then you're saying Grandpa in second feels right. I think Adept, nah. Corsica being outright banned feels wrong to me. I think Corsica would be 2 just so you can get both of its effects. That's just me though. The anti-blocker color would be green with the Wu Fei support and green breach. Let's not forget about wing and high maneuver. Yes, but if you don't want to play wing, why do you want to lock your entire deck into wing just to be anti-blocker? Amuro is a fairly small package, and he kind of is the main character. I don't think they're going to touch the main character before they touch other things. Willie Hawk says, and I find it funny that the only other card will open similar to the starter deck version of RX-78. What is set 3's Providence Gundam being a level 7 compared to the other card level 5? I don't know exactly what you're talking about. You're gonna have to come back and reply to me. TJ Gundam, I actually only played at 2 most of starter Gundam and Wing Zero, but I do see where 4 will be enticing other players. I feel like it's too many high cost cards that get stuck in your hand. Corsica is a surprising choice though. Gundam and Wing Zero. Okay, starter Gundam and Wing Zero. I see what you're saying. In a wing deck. Corsica is a surprising choice though. Oh, no it is not. That card is a little too rough. The card be kind of doing the most. Now you've got Juan Jesus. Juan Jesus or Juan Jesus? Juan Jesus Torres. That's a long name, bro. Juan, sir. Sword Strike is the only good card to fight aggro and white. You can't say, hey, Amuro is not broken, and then 2 minutes later say Kira is a problem. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I'm not going to try to trash anybody else's opinion. I'm just saying I don't think you fundamentally understand how trading works if you don't see why that is what I'm saying. Amuro has to rest something, but Amuro still, that doesn't get rid of a problem. You get past a blocker for 1 turn. A blocker, not multiple blockers. You get past a blocker for 1 turn. You also can get past something or rest something and attack into it. But unless you're running started at Grandpa, you're generally losing the card you're swinging into or putting it into range of getting destroyed by even a small 2/2 the following turn. Kira killing things without taking damage, much like Gundam. But on top of killing things without taking damage, much like Gundam, he is also enabling cards to just go crazy, like Ale Strike. He's turning blockers into 6 AP blockers. He is allowing Ale Strike to bounce and then be a 6 AP blocker, or swing on something and reduce. He is allowing your links to kill other links without killing your own link, and soon he will be on a suppression blocker. I don't think you can compare the two right now. Not like that. Not in that way. Let's see what is next. Okay, Fishy Plur, you say show of resolve is a big problem to me as Corsica. Ooh, it allows blue to offset the hand advantage issues of playing commands like unforeseen in close combat that other colors do not get to. Pay 3, draw 3, pay 3, draw 2 on turn 4, and then beyond should be a game mechanic all decks can do instead of gatekeeping other colors. I do believe that all decks should be able to draw. I cannot hate on that. I do think that all decks should be able to draw, because obtaining cards is something that's very, very lacking on a lot of these things. However, I will say that the reason why blue has draw is because unlike green that has attacks into active mode and breach, unlike red that has ping, unlike purple that has ping, suppression, all these things, unlike blue that has bounce, or sorry, white that has bounce, blue does not actually have a way to hard remove cards. You have certain ping on rested units. You don't have destruction. You don't have like these hard kill, like you don't have any of that. So blue, it has draw because blue needs many cards to get rid of one card, or you have to just attack into something and hope repair gets you there, or just chump. So that's kind of why that has that. But yeah, I can see that. Then you have, I do believe that everything needs to draw. Then this next one says, Warblade, you are saying that you pretty much nailed all my thoughts in the game, called out all the cards I think are the problem. The one that surprised me is RX-78-2 LR from the starter. Your thoughts definitely make sense and really can't argue against it, but I personally want my 4 copies of this card in my deck. I appreciate all the well thought out commentary and appreciate the justification behind it, as there are so many people who would just say broken card, ban it. One card missing from this list is Gundam Barbados Adept. This is one of those cards that broke into the current meta and would be the easiest to actually ban. Again, like I've said plenty of times in this video, I just don't think that card is broken. I think that card is just extremely solid, and it's what the deck needed. It doesn't do anything that's like game breaking. It just slotted in everything that deck needed in one card. It's not even an SR, like it's not even an LR like level of power. So that's kind of what I feel about that one. Scott Kreisman, you were saying great video. I can't afford to play Gundam TCG, but I'm still following it. A follow away, and hopefully that changes sooner than later. Warblade also is here saying, on the note of Wing Zero, I played green blue rush deck 2 weeks ago, built up and showed lethal damage by the end of my turn. Then my opponent plays Wing Zero, wiping out 5 units. I rebuild with 4 new units from this base, and base generation Corsica. Yep, I know it's coming. Then my opponent Wing Zeros again, so I built up another army of 4 between base generation, white base, and was left in my hand. Your opponent plays a 3rd Wing Zero in a row, and after that there was nothing you can do. Showed lethal damage 3 turns in a row, and 3 different turns you got Wing Zero, lose it to my opponent. Okay, so I don't get to play the game. From that point on, there's nothing I can do to finish me off. It's completely disheartening when you can play your hand, field, and resources and shields, and it doesn't matter when your opponent, your entire army gets killed by a single card. Not gonna lie, I was thinking of taking a break away from the game after that, but thankfully I got a good pull in my prize pack, and I restored your vigor in the game. Came back next week and got 2nd place with the same deck. Hey, look, this is how it is. This is how it is. Unfortunately, Wing Zero just be doing that, but that's why I said I believe it needs to go to 2. I think it's not really earned how you get up to it, and I think that what it is enabling you to do is a little not interactive. Then you have Kaiser Ray. I agree with your list. Thank you, sir. You have Roberto Diaz. The only hit to Amuro and Kira would be fair and okay. And not kill either, is to make them both during link for these card effects. As for Wing Zero, reducing it to 2, or at least making the effects on Wing Zero when linked. Another unit I see is Barbados Adapt, but if they hit that card, they gotta hit Elfrith and Rick Diaz to make them limit 2. I can't see them hitting random commons and rares like that. Barbados Adapt, like I said, I've stated that enough times in this video. I don't think they're not going to do any erratas. They got really mad at erratas, the Dragon Ball Super Masters, and they try not to hit them as many times as possible. 100% to Corsica, nerf Amuro as you'd hit the RX-78 instead. Yes, sir. I agree. Oh, yes, ma'am. Actually, from that, I agree. That's a step. Renmer, you said you disagree with my take on pair bans. I don't think they kill deck building at all, but instead allow decks that need them to still function while removing interactions that make the card problematic, punishing toxic interaction while allowing cards to exist as they were intended to. Digimon has been successful with exactly this. Somebody say pair bans actually invigorate deck building. Another person is 1%. Hey, look, I'm just against them. Maybe that's just not the way, but I, like, literally, Amuro can go with anything. Amuro is not comboing with other decks. Amuro is just supplementing other decks. If you say Amuro and Mikazuki can't be run, they're just going to play the next best pilot with Amuro, and it's still going to feel bad. And they'll have to keep doing this. Every time a good pilot comes out, that pilot could be just as toxic with Amuro. So I think it's, like, a problem around the game and how we're set up to play, more so than Amuro specifically being with Mikazuki. Because would you say last set that Amuro and Char need to not be put together? Like I said, it only takes, like, at some point people would say that Amuro and Char don't need to be played together. Okay, well now Amuro and Mikazuki don't want to be played together. Amuro is a root problem, but it's really Amuro and Gundam LR from the starter, in my opinion. Now, Hikiko Horvey, oh, I know you, you're local. The pain for this with me is that I finally got your 4 Grandpa and Amuros for your white-blue unicorn deck. I don't think they're going to be touching Amuro, but I do think that Grandpa could be on the list. Crosis, he says, you don't even touch Amuro, but saying Kira needs to go to 2. Seed fanboy detected. Before we get our hands on the blue Kira for GDO 5 is absurd. Kira is good, but no doubt, but boss monster standards have changed since GDO 1. All the freedoms are stuck to 6 AP, and this is not good enough to trade up with some of the top end with a pilot we play now. Kira is the only good white pilot. Lauren will be good, but I'm not a fan of his unit. Turn A is okay, but building restriction too severe. If you limit Kira right now, white will lose his only good link. You think it's too early. You haven't seen a freedom since GDO 2. It's just too slow right now. Limit Kira to 2 will be detrimental to white. Like, limit Mika will be... No. Limiting Mika to 2 kills purple. Limiting Kira to 1, or to 2, does not kill white. White still plays the exact same units. Half those units don't need Kira for a link. It just turns it into Overdrive Omega, allowing you to bounce a unit and kill a 2-2, allowing you to bounce a unit and trade up something ferociously. Not to mention the fact that, like, you're talking about this, Kira is about to literally get a suppression unit in 4 days. 3 days. 3 days from now, Kira's about to get a suppression unit. I just don't agree with this, but agree to disagree. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. The next one here is Vanitas Sentiment. I'd be okay with Kira and Grandpa Starter going to 2. That will give us the room to get to use it, get pilots and units that don't normally get played. I can see that. And thank you also for being another member of Vanitas. And then you have Smash Adams 4 days ago. Me over here with my 2 Gundam, 2 Amuro since I started. Look, 1 starter deck blues. It happens. A drawing pan, as long as Corsica gets hit, you're good. I'm even going to go as far as say ban it. Oof, card is too defensive and offensive at the same time. And for a base card draw, I think 2. I would still like to see it get 1 effect and 1 effect. The Chosen One, another member, thank you. They need to scrap the new headless Gundam LR. What's worth an Amuro? A single Amuro that links 3 units and gets linked attacks off from resting 2 bodies. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be one of those things where all the people are like, oh, well, if you get to 8 energy or 8 resources with Wing Zero, you deserve to play Wing Zero. Bro, if you can link twice with Amuro in the same turn, you're at like 10 resources, brother. Like, I don't know, man. It's going to be strong, but it's going to make blue actually its own standalone color instead of being like just the support color of all time. I don't know, man. I think that it's actually going to be fine, but that's just me. That's just me. That card is crashing into anything it swings into. It's going to rest something, crash into something, and then die. But you do get to recycle your Amuro. So hey, it could just be really toxic. We do got to see that though. The Chosen One, they need to limit red command cards. It's not fun to play or play against it. It takes little to no skill to play the first 5 turns. Red is very passive. Red command is very passive like white blockers are. But just like white blockers, actually more so, because red commands, they just happen and they leave. You don't leave a body behind. White blockers is passive, but at least you can start turning those blockers sideways to get shields out of the way. I think that red's fine. You gotta have the command-based archetype, because commands are extremely weak in the game right now, so it's good to have that. Ruben Sanchez, I think Adapt needs to be banned. I think, like I said, that card is not ban worthy. It's just very solid. Brett Shevlin, you said as a white-red player yourself that immediately gravitated towards Star Deck 4 for Gundam Seed, you admit inherent bias to liking Kira in your decks. He's fantastic on offense and boosts a blocker enough to be difficult on defense, but I don't think warrants limiting him to 2 in a deck. Most people have been saying he's the number 2 pilot in the game behind Amuro. Amuro is so good on offense himself, but normal on defense. He's not going, and if he's not going to be limited in decks, I can't see putting a limit on the pilot that's not ranked as good as him. Either Kira or Amuro or Kira get limited, or both get left alone. Your personally admittedly biased take. It is a biased take. I mean, but you admitted that. I think a lot of people are kind of seeing this through the lens of I get beat by Amuro, and so I don't like it. Amuro, again, he is a good pilot. He's the best pilot for his effect on pair, but he still needs a vehicle to do what he needs to do. He doesn't necessarily make anything great. Like if you put it on a unit and you swing into something, you can still just die. Kira makes trades that should not happen. Kira also has everything under the sun, between blockers, between a floodgate, between an offensive card that can bounce small weenies, and soon a suppression unit. Kira has everything under his belt and what he can do. And I do think that he's the second best leader, but I think that the reason why he is not more seen as like a threat than Amuro is because blue is in 80% of the decks in the game. White is not. That is literally the difference. The Bro 4165 for the initial ban / limitless, I don't think Bandai will hit pilots. That being said, I think a lot of Star Deck stuff from the beginning needs to be hit. Personally, you prefer the Starter Deck Gramps. They can either limit or ban it altogether. They will not ban stuff from Starter Decks. I think limiting it to 2 is good. I think both Ailstrike as well as Star Deck Wing Gundam need to be limited to 2, as well as Gramps. That way, they do way too many things essentially for free. I can agree with that. Those are everything I want 100%, but I feel like generic blockers need a hit. I personally go for Striker Pack. Striker Pack can just leave. Striker Pack has to go down to 2 because it's in a starter deck, I think. But it can burst and give you choices of a token. You can also hit Ilfrith or Rick Diaz. I don't agree with blocking those whites, but I like the white blockers. But I said this before. I said all this before. So that is pretty much it, y'all. It has been an extremely long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed me going over all of the comments, talking about this, talking about your specific responses, and really just kind of giving more of my thoughts and in-depth on this. I really wanted to show you guys that I do read each and every one of your comments, and I hope you guys enjoyed this really, really long form video. Put it on while you're driving to work, driving back, put it on in the background while you're sorting cards or whatnot. I do think that everybody's voice deserves to be just heard, and just because I disagree with you does not mean I harbor any ill will. I'm just a very passionate speaker when it comes to these things, and so thank you guys for giving me your thoughts. Hopefully we'll do something like this again sometime. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this sort of video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you guys for stopping by. Check out the link tree for all of my links and all the quadrants of Universe X, and yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.